What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Stephen A. Smith. It's a Friday, y'all. It's a Friday. And guess what? I'm excited. But I've been excited like this all week long because the Cowboys got bounced out and there's miserable Cowboy fans everywhere. Now, usually, I'd go on some kind of a diatribe or whatever the case may be. But I'm not in that kind of mood. I'm in the mood for some music. Kick my music, please.
Mediocre team and Big D. That's what makes this funny. How about the Cowboys? How about the Cowboys? Some way, somehow, when they count, just wait. They will let you down. The accident, they will mess it up. Just wait. The accident, they will let you down. Just wait. The accident, the accident, the accident, waiting to happen. It will happen. I'm predicting they're gonna be irrelevant. I'm predicting an absolute embarrassment for the last decade and a half. They make me laugh. All the talent that they have is unbelievable, man. Big D, teasing you. This is what they do. Walking through weed show up on cue. Accident, something will go wrong. The accident of the big Jumbotron. Accident, gotta recognize it's a black cat running around that franchise. Say it with me. Accident, they will mess it up. Just wait. The accident, they will let you down. Just wait. The accident. Waiting to happen. It won't happen. How about them Cowboys?
Ha ha! What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you at least 3 times a week over the digital airwaves of YouTube. I just wanted to start the show that way to show what kind of mood I'm in, because I'm in a beautiful, beautiful mood, knowing that Dallas Cowboy fans everywhere are absolutely, positively miserable. Just tickles me. Just tickles me to death. Not the Cowboys. Cowboy fans, you know who the hell your nauseating, disgusting selves are. You get on my damn nerves. All of that talking, you know we're going to win the Super Bowl next year, right? You know we're going to win the Super Bowl next year, right? Well, guess what? 29 years and counting, you haven't done it. So surprised. I'm so surprised. Before I get into the show, let me say first off to thank everybody that's been supporting the Stephen A. Smith Show. My subscriber base has eclipsed 520,000 and counting. Nothing but love for y'all. I appreciate y'all showing me the love. Continue to show it, and I'll keep the love coming. I'll keep on coming with my shows. Excuse me. Just remember, to continue watching the show, to like and follow the show, just click the bell, the Stephen A. Smith Show, to subscribe, and bam, there you have it. It's as simple as that. Keep that subscriber base going, and I'm going to keep on doing it. As a matter of fact, I might do more shows depending on the most love y'all show me. So keep it coming. By the way, I've got a best-selling memoir, New York Times best-selling memoir, that's been out since last January. It's now in paperback as of last week. You can go to straightshooterbook.com. To order the book. You can go to Amazon.com to get the book as well, or go to the bookstore nearest you to get my book, Straight Shooter, a memoir of second chances and first takes. Let me get right to it, because yesterday, I have to tell you, I was a bit annoyed. And I was a bit annoyed because I was watching a couple of press conferences. One would be the head coach, Mike McCarthy, of the Dallas Cowboys. The other would be Mike Tomlin, the head coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers. One would think that they don't have that much in common if you look at their records and some of the things they've experienced throughout their career. They've both won 1 Super Bowl championship. In Tomlin's case, he's been to 2 Super Bowls, but lost the second one to Mike McCarthy and the Green Bay Packers in 2010. Mike McCarthy hasn't won a Super Bowl championship ever since, hasn't even been back to the Super Bowl ever since then, despite the fact that Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, and now Dak Prescott have been the starting quarterbacks for him over the course of his 17-year head coaching career in the National Football League. But I was watching Mike McCarthy yesterday, and I got incredibly, incredibly annoyed. Ladies and gentlemen, it should be easy for you to figure out what the hell annoyed me. But in case you missed it, listening to his drivel at the press conference in Dallas yesterday, take a look at what this man had to say right here.
But my message would be this: we have established a championship program. It's just not the world championship yet. We know how to win. We know how to train to win. We have the right people, but we have not crossed the threshold of winning playoff games. And it's extremely disappointing to be sitting here talking about it. But I know how to win, and and we will get over that threshold. I have total confidence in it, and that's why I'm standing here today.
Really? Really, that's what we're doing? We've got a championship culture, not to use the word culture, but that's basically what he was intimating. We just haven't won a championship yet. You said that with a straight face. That was Mike McCarthy. He uttered that with a straight face, which was blasphemous and ridiculous. Damn near criminal. Back-to-back-to-back 12-win seasons. Playing for a Dallas Cowboys franchise that won 5 Super Bowls of the 8 they appeared in before 96, or actually by that time. 5 Super Bowls. Ladies and gentlemen, before 1996, the Dallas Cowboys as a franchise had been to 14 NFC championship games in 26 years. 14 conference championship games in 26 years. That was up until 1996. Since 1996, that number has plummeted to 0. They've been to as many conference championship games as me, and I don't play football. Are you kidding me? You're talking about a championship. What championship is Mike McCarthy talking about? That just seemed like the most asinine quote that I've ever heard from a head coach. And if it isn't the one, it's certainly up there. Just dumb. Makes no sense whatsoever. Now, this is a man that, again, has gotten to the playoffs the last 3 years. He's 1-3 in the playoffs in the 3 years with the Dallas Cowboys. So he's going to a divisional playoff game when he's lost to San Francisco. He's been bounced out the other 2 times. In the very first wild card game he's played, one of those times was San Francisco. And then you get blitzed by Green Bay with a first-year quarterback in Jordan Love. Not first year as in his first year in the league, but his first year as the starting quarterback. Ever, anywhere. He's in the league for 3 years as the backup to Aaron Rodgers before he got the starting nod this year. His first playoff game, they're up 48-16 with 6 minutes left in regulation. And you're going to sit up there and say, we've got the makings of a championship team here. We've got the personnel. We've got the coaching. Then why do you have the damn job? Because if you got everything you need, what the hell you lose like that for? And Jerry Jones making the decision to keep him when Bill Belichick is is available with 6 championships on his resume, recognizing the fact that he doesn't necessarily need to head a franchise in terms of being the GM and making player personnel decisions. I don't know why you're Jerry Jones and you don't consider that. Because you know he wasn't going to go for it, because Parcells wasn't trying to hear it, because Jimmy Johnson wasn't trying to hear it, because you got a guy in Mike McCarthy that will capitulate to every whim that you throw out. I'm very disappointed in Jerry Jones. Very disappointed. The man's 81 years old. He himself has brought up how his biological clock is ticking, how Father Time is knocking on his door, how he wonders how much time he has left on this earth, by the way. Not as an owner, but on this earth. But then you're going to hold faith in a coach that's wet the bed for you the last 3 years when the playoffs have rolled around. I didn't get into how petrified Dak Prescott looked and how that's served to diminish everything they were accomplishing. This is bad. This is bad. But nevertheless, it was disappointing. Now, there are some of you out there that are going to sit up there and say that Mike Tomlin wasn't no better. Because Mike Tomlin, what the hell has he done as head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers? You'll even point to the aftermath of the loss to the Buffalo Bills on Monday in the wild card playoff game, and you'll point to his actions as providing the level of evidence that you're looking for to denigrate him. You'll point to this right here. This is Mike Tomlin at the press conference.
Anyone?
Mike, you have a year left on your contract.
Ladies and gentlemen, I had no problem with it. The man had just lost the playoff game, and somebody's trying to ask him about his contract. He didn't want to answer it. I don't have a problem with it. And I think he handled it well the very next day when he issued his mea culpa apology, or whatever you want to call it, when he said this.
Good afternoon. In a little better mood today, man. Anybody got any contract questions? I'll say this. I certainly could have handled that situation better than I did, but I'll also say this. I just believe there's a time and place for everything, and post-game press conferences are probably not the place to address contract issues and things of that nature. It's just a very individual thing, and on game day, I doubt any of us are in that mindset. Certainly I am not. What's required to do what it is that we do, the amount of focus pouring into a collective, I'm just not in that mind state, and I just don't believe that's the appropriate venue to talk about things of that nature. Certainly open and willing to do it today in this venue.
Look, he says, does anybody have any contract questions? He's looking forward to staying. He's looking forward to being available. He's looking forward to all of these things. Fine. For those of you who want to sit up there and say, Stephen A., you hate on the Dallas Cowboys every chance you get, but you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. How come you ain't getting on Mike Tomlin? Well, listen, let me tell you something. 17 consecutive seasons, all 17 of his coaching seasons as a head coach in the National Football League, he's always had a winning record, number one. Number two, he's a Super Bowl champion. Number three, here's the deal. I understand that Mike Tomlin hasn't won a Super Bowl championship either. But I also understand he's been a couple AFC championship games. He's won about 7 playoff games. Now 3-8 since that time he won the Super Bowl. Fair enough. Hasn't won a playoff game since 2016. Fair enough. Has 6 one-and-dones since that time in the postseason. Fair enough. But Mike Tomlin had an aging Big Ben Roethlisberger as his quarterback, playing in the same conference as Tom Brady, and at one time Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, okay, for a significant chunk of that time, not to mention the fact that he certainly hasn't had a quarterback in recent memory. The last 2 or 3 years of Big Ben Roethlisberger, he was done. And between Kenny Pickett, Mitchell Trubisky, and now Mason Rudolph, don't get me started. I didn't see Brett Favre coaching or quarterbacking for Mike Tomlin. I didn't see Aaron Rodgers quarterbacking for Mike Tomlin. And I haven't seen Dak Prescott, who was an MVP candidate. Case closed. Shut the hell up. I don't want to hear that. The two don't compare. The two don't compare. It's just that simple. Let me move on to a different subject because I got Gilbert Arenas waiting for me, and I can't wait till y'all hear what this brother has to say. So there's a few things that I want to touch on, but there's a story that I'm aching to touch because I think it's important to bring this up. I already brought up the comparisons between Mike Tomlin and Mike McCarthy. I already brought up their coaching records and their resume. I already touched on all of that, and neither situation is ideal. But in the case of Mike McCarthy, he's speaking gibberish. I will fault Tomlin, by the way, before I get to my next subject, for sitting there and talking about the quarterback is still in the room. Who said that? Pickett, Trubisky, or Rudolph? Hell to the no. Hell to the no. Neither of them work. Get rid of all of them. Or relegate them to backup. They better not be the starting quarterback. I don't care if Mike Tomlin goes out and get Kirk Cousins or Justin Fields. And I'd prefer Justin Fields over Kirk Cousins, by the way, because he can run with the football. And I want a dual threat. But I'm here to tell you something right now. Anybody but the 3 he has. Anybody but the 3 he has. So let me get that out the way. Let me transition to a story that's been percolating that I feel obligated to touch on because it involves my colleague at ESPN, Mr. RG3, and a beef he's gotten into with his former head coach in Washington, Mr. Jay Gruden. Because evidently they've been going back and forth with one another recently because Jay Gruden initiated the discussions by tweeting out saying, if I ever put a quarterback through what Philly is putting Jalen through, as in Jalen Hurts, I apologize. Pick up a blitz, which Robert Griffin III, RG3, responded to by taking a selfie with the caption, say what? You can see it. It's all there. Okay? And that ultimately sparked a conversation, a back and forth. Gruden answered back, you weren't prepared, Robert. RG3 expressed it in his rebuttal. You told me you didn't know how to coach a quarterback who could throw and run like me, so it looks like you weren't prepared, Jay. That's what he said. That's what he said. So we got to take that into consideration and see that for what it is, okay? And go from there. And they've been going back and forth ever since. And RG ultimately decided to invite Jay Gruden on his podcast. By the way, it's podcast, RG3 and the Ones, presented by Wave Sports and Entertainment. So RG3 invited his old coach, said wasn't going to cuss him out, wasn't going to disrespect him, wasn't going to call him out his name, but he was going to be factual and unapologetic with his facts. Here's a taste of what RG3 is saying you can look forward to if Jay Gruden is willing to show up on his podcast.
So if Jay Gruden really wants to talk, I'm not going to cuss the man out. I'm not going to call him outside of his name. But what I am going to do is tell you guys the truth. And the truth of the matter is there was a moment in D.C. that is vividly remembered. Jay Gruden went to a press conference and he undressed me at that press conference in a way that a coach should never undress his starting quarterback. It was after a game, and I said in the press conference that the best players in the NFL have the guys around them play at an extremely high level. No one is out there doing it on their own. Now, the media pundits and everyone took that and said RG3 threw his teammates under the bus. And I had to eat that for a long time because Jay didn't back me in the media the next day. He doubled down on it and actually picked me apart in the media. But what people don't know is that the only reason I went to that press conference and said what I said to challenge my teammates through that press conference was because Jay Gruden asked me to do that. What hurt me about that was the fact that after I did that in the press conference, not only did Jay Gruden not have my back, but he actually burned me with it. He came out the next day and burned me in the media. He came out the next day in a meeting in our team meeting room and burned me in front of my own teammates.
Oh, by the way, of all the back and forth that RG3 and Gruden have been doing with one another, how about this one? Kirk Cousins was better than you. Ain't all he said, but damn, that one sentence does it. Kirk Cousins was better than you. Some people feel that way. My point is, were we saying that before RG3 got hurt? Were we saying that before RG3 got hurt? That's how I'm thinking. And Gruden going out like that, I mean, damn. Damn, bro. RG3 could have easily came back and said, well, there's 28 to 30 coaches in the NFL that were better than you at the time. He didn't do that. But I digress. Here's the problem. I'm not going to take sides here. That's between them. What I would say is, first of all, Jay Gruden, with the mess your brother got into, you would think that anybody with the last name Gruden would defer from speaking publicly and drawing attention to themselves. Not the wisest thing in the world. Not the wisest thing in the world. And I personally love John Gruden, the coach, and I love the job that he did at ESPN, and I'm not going to throw shade on him just because he's going through the things that he's going through after these emails discovered how salacious and incendiary his comments were about a bevy of folks. Okay? I'm not going there. What I will say is that the Gruden name is persona non grata because of John Gruden with that. As it pertains to you, Jay Gruden, you had a 35-49-1 record as the head coach for the Washington then Redskins, who are now the Washington Commanders. Your best season was a 9-7 season in 2015. That was your best record. You've had 4 losing seasons in 6 years, 2 winning records, 1 playoff appearance, not a single playoff victory. It's kind of unwise for you to be talking about RG3 and how he was unprepared. Because when you elevated Kirk Cousins, it didn't get you a playoff win. So let's keep that in mind, even though you won a division title. We have to keep that in mind. We also have to keep in mind and stop talking about RG3 like RG3 was some average brother. RG3 was a star in the making before Haloti Ngata very nearly had his leg amputated, for crying out loud, because of that hit against Baltimore. We all know that if RG3 hadn't sustained and suffered that injury, RG3 would have been far better. We knew this brother could play. Let's stop talking about him like that. So for Jay Gruden to sit up there and say, you weren't prepared, you don't get to say that. We might have saw that from RG3 later on when he was virtually immobile, But we certainly couldn't say that about him when he first arrived in the league and took the NFL by storm. Stop that bullshit. Stop it. Let's get that out the way. Outside of that, when y'all roll up on each other, hopefully Jay Gruden will take RG3 up on his invitation. I wouldn't mind watching that podcast. RG3 and the Ones, presented by Wave Sports and Entertainment. I wouldn't mind seeing that. Not at all. Not at all. 888-SAS-5303. That's 888-727-5303. That is the number to call into the Stephen A. Smith Show right here over the digital airwaves of YouTube. Let me say this last part before I get on out of here. Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Ladies and gentlemen, this brother is something special. If you know anything about me, I can't stand the cold. I don't want to go to Minnesota. I want to go to Chicago in the wintertime. I don't want to go to Minnesota. I want to go to Idaho. I don't want to go to Iowa. I don't want to go to any place. I want California. I want Florida. And when I say California, I mean Southern California, not Northern California. Southern California. I want to go to Florida. Okay? I want to be where it's warm. I want to go to islands. I despise the cold. I'm over it. I'll make an exception for Anthony Edwards. This brother is something special. This brother. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be premature with this. I think this brother going to win an NBA championship one day in Minnesota. I think he's going to bring a championship to that team. This brother's got an NBA body. His athleticism is off the chart. He's a Skywalker. We've seen the dunks that he's done over the years. We've seen the dunks over the last 2 weeks. Last night, he threw it off the backboard to himself and slammed it again. The other night against Detroit, it wasn't really a dunk because he didn't touch the rim, but he just threw it in there, but just skying through the air a la Vince Carter. Ladies and gentlemen, when I watch his athleticism, I think Vince Carter. I think Kobe. I think MJ as in Michael Jordan. He ain't there yet. I'm not saying that. But when I see him, I see that potential. This brother is something special. And when I see Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, and I see this cat Reed, and I see Mike Conley Jr., look, fellas, ladies, Minnesota. I'm predicting that within a year or two, Anthony Edwards may be the biggest, or at least in the discussion, as the biggest box office attraction in the NBA. I'm looking forward to going to Minnesota to see him. I got to call my A-Rod, Alex Rodriguez. Give me a courtside seat to sit next to him. I got to see this brother. Special. I ain't going to stop talking about him because my man Gilbert Arenas is coming up next. From Gil's Arena, the sensational podcast gaining more and more traction every single day. I'm going to ask him about Anthony Edwards. I think he'll agree with me. We're about to find out. You're listening to the Stephen A. Smith Show right here over YouTube. Back with more in a minute. What's that? What you put in the desk box on my desk for?
Open it. Just open it. Just open it.
Man, you couldn't have opened it for me? What? Yeah. My new book on paperback. I like it a lot. It works for me. Y'all see this. New foreword and all. Stephen A. in paperback, straight shooter, memoirs, second chances, and first takes. I haven't gotten over that picture. It does look pretty smooth. I must say so myself. It's a bestseller. I'll hold on to this. Hope you go out and get it. Thank y'all so much for the love and support. Wouldn't be here without you. Thank you. Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show, right here over the digital airways of YouTube. I couldn't wait to have this next guest. I've appeared on his podcast before, but it was when he and I were talking one-on-one. Now he got a crew of dudes. I don't know if it'd be safe for me to show up on his podcast in this day and age. It's actually safer for him to show up on mine. This is one of the prolific scorers the game has ever seen, had a 12-year career in the NBA, was a star player at the University of Arizona, went to the national championship game before he got to the NBA, and lost to Duke in that game, if I remember correctly. He's not just had a big NBA career. Now he's doing big things in the world of podcasting, working with my boy Shannon Sharp on some occasions, got Gilbert Arenas doing his thing on his own, one of the most popular podcasts going. I'm talking about the one and only Gilbert Arenas. He's right here with yours truly. What's up, big time? How are you, man?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Man, it's good. It's good to see you. It's good to be here. First things first, I got to tell you something that's on my mind, and it's crazy because I said it at the top of the show. I'm going to say it to you right now. I saw that brother Anthony Edwards last night. Minnesota in the second half. He dropped 26. I've been watching this brother. Gil, this dude is special. I think he's got superstar written all over him. He ain't there yet, but when I see his athleticism, his heart, he ain't scared of shit. He's gonna come at you. To me, Gil, I think Vince Carter, I think Kobe, I think MJ in the making. Am I wrong, bro?
No, you're right. You're right. He has the charisma. Like when people say, the it factor, he has it, right? The game, the swagger, the confidence. He knows how to make you laugh, and he knows how to defend his game. And, when you're talking about superstars, ticket sellers, he has it all to be the face and to be a very, very marketable dude.
He definitely so. And by the way, his acting wasn't too damn bad when he was in that film with Adam Sandler. Good acting, too.
He was all right.
Your brother got Hollywood potential. I'll give it to him. But the thing that has shocked me, I've looked at Minnesota, and I said, how the hell are they in first place, 30-11, and all of this stuff? And I'm looking at Cat, Karl Anthony Towns. I'm looking at Rudy Gobert. And we know they got 2 7-footers, and they're going to help defensively, and we get that part. He seems to have brought out a little something extra in them. Do you see that? And if so, how does a player bring out that quote-unquote dog in other players?
We had the first sign, but we didn't pay attention to it because, we was just trying to see what Denver was going to do. But when Denver said their first round matchup was the hardest out of all of them, I think we just let that go by and not realize what they were saying. And if you go and look at the numbers, Ant was killing, Rudy was killing, and Townsend was killing. They were all playing very well. I think going into the USA game, right, and having that reality check, wait, hold on, who I should come off the bench for, and then went and showed why he was the best player. You bring those two combinations to the next season, it's all the NBA is all about confidence. If you have that confidence, it is hard to stop that person, right? So you got last year's success, you got his personal success at the USA game, right? And now the season starts. You have a guy that has so much confidence and he believes in himself. Everybody follows the lead. And I think that's what that team is.
And not only that, Gil, I find him to be somebody like, when I look at a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's an all-star, should be an all-star, should be a candidate for league MVP honors, the way that he's balling this year in Oklahoma City, even though they got a damn good team as well. I think that there's a little something missing, a little extra toughness that you'll need in order to get out of the West. But I think Minnesota potentially has that. And I'm looking at a guy like Anthony Davis, and here's the difference, Anthony Edwards, I'm sorry, and here's the difference that I see between the two. I look at a guy like Shai, SGA, he's going out there to do damage on the basketball court. Let me get my numbers. Let me do what I need to do to win this basketball game. When I look at Anthony Edwards, I see somebody looking for the opportunity to embarrass and demoralize you. That's my interpretation of Anthony Davis, which is why I think that all of us should be interested in watching Minnesota as the season progresses. What do you say to that?
No, you're correct. When you're looking at him, he picks his moments to give you the woo, like this is what we came here to see, right? So he has the the Kevin Durant or the Devin Booker, I just want to get buckets. And then he still has that flair that got you in the building, right? So that's why I said he has all the it factors of being the face of the league.
They say their record says they're the best team in the West. Who do you have as the best team in the West right now?
And until you prove Denver's not, I still have Denver as the favorite. Right, you know they lost some games because of Murray wasn't there, but you know the fact that Murray's back and he's playing well, you know you have Denver as still the team to beat. And second, I'll have Timberwolves, depending on who they match up in the playoffs with.
You didn't bring up the Lakers. I mean, we here in LA. You didn't bring up the Lakers, right?
Yeah, I'm not
that was on purpose. Right? That was on purpose.
I'm not bringing up my Lakers, man.
What the hell is wrong with them? Anthony Davis been balling, playing like an MVP and a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. LeBron is still LeBron. What the hell is up with the Lakers in your estimation?
I don't want to bash Ham because he finally adjusted his lineup. There's this 80 mentality or this old school mentality of we put our defense only guys to guard these unstoppable offensive players, right? And what they're going to do in that game doesn't benefit the team, right? So when you have these defense only guys out there, you're not realizing that they're not going to truly stop that offensive player. But on the other end, they're never going to challenge that offensive player defensively either. So that means that offensive player doesn't have anybody to guard, which means he's just going to junk up the game, right? It's like having Ben Simmons out there in the playoffs when you know he's not going to shoot the ball. I'm just going to sit back. Any curl you try, I'm just going to block it. So that offensive, that person who's reluctant to shoot or who can't shoot is the liability on the offensive side. So now I zero effort on defense and I get to give you all 100% of my offense. And when you have 2 or 3 of those guys on the team, now it's just two against 5.
That's right. And that ain't going to cut it. Particularly this season in the Western Conference. I'll tell you this much, though. We got to mention the Clippers because I'm looking at the Clippers out here, and let's give James Harden credit where credit is due. He's a legit point guard. When he wants to be, he can play the point position, and he assists guys in elevating their level of play. We know what Kawhi brings when he's healthy. We know what Paul George brings when he's healthy. But Ty Lue being the exceptional coach that he is, I can't say enough about Russell Westbrook coming off the bench and doing what he's doing, and Norman Powell. I think the Clippers could be the biggest threat to the Denver Nuggets. If you had to pick between the Clippers and the Minnesota Timberwolves being the biggest threat to the Denver Nuggets, who would it be?
The reason I'm gonna say Minnesota still is because you need bigs against Jokic.
Yeah.
Right? And the fact that Clippers do play small ball with Kawhi at the 4, him at the 4, and he's not athletic. He's not an athletic 4, right? He has long arms, long fingers, but he still has a 32-inch vertical from his test jumps in, his rookie season. Yep. Having Jokic down there and having Gordon, those guys are 4s. Like, that back line is 6'10", 6'11", 6'10", and athletic, right? So that can give Clippers problems when you try to play small ball. And that's their best lineup, small ball. If they decide to go big, then they will be the problem. Then they're going to cause problems for Denver if they stay big.
And especially if offensively, Cat can score. Okay, we know that Rudy's going to patrol the paint defensively and offensively. You can just lob it up. He can get some points that way. I love this kid Reed. I can't say enough about him. Yeah. Mike Conley Jr. is an experienced, steady veteran that can make shots when it counts. And then, of course, there's Anthony Edwards. So I definitely agree with you about that. Before I get into anything else about the NBA, though, I want to transition to you because I got to give you props where props is due. The podcast is great. You're doing a great job. You deserve a lot of credit for it. Your team deserves a lot of credit for it. I got to give them some love. Yes, Rashard McCants is a part of that team, ladies and gentlemen. I'm giving them props, okay? Just because we disagreed on something don't mean I hate the brother. I mean, it's ridiculous, okay? Kenyon Martin, I don't know what the hell he was talking about when we've had a problem. I've never had a problem with Kenyon Martin. Kenyon Martin has always been big time in my mind. I don't know what the hell he's talking about, but he's a member of your podcast squad as well, Gilbert Arenas, and, of course, Josiah Johnson, all right? And you do this podcast. Talk to me about your podcast, what you were originally thinking when you put that team together, because I remember when you and I spoke a couple of years ago or so, a little less than that, it was just you. Mm-hmm. Now you got a team of dudes. Talk to me about that for a second. What made you do that?
So the ideal is, I watch and look at everything. I'm a student. Why someone's successful, the patterns, right? You're just trying to find an insight of why this person lasts so long, right? Mm-hmm. It's the hard work, right? It's the team he puts around him. So I'm watching TNT, right? You got Shaq and them up there, you got and I'm like, that's it. Right? Mm-hmm. Everyone has their podcast, but no one has that live. You have Pat McAfee live. No one has that but live talking everyday sports.
Right.
So, when I came up with the idea, right, I seen Rashad at a 24-hour fitness, working out. Like, hey, what you doing, man? I'm trying to start this show up. What you think? He said, I'm in. Didn't have no idea, didn't know what we were doing. I'm in. Perfect. Right? Went to Brennan. We both have the same barber. I'm in. Cool. Right? And that's how it started. It was just fine. If it's you, just fine, let's do it. So the more we tinkle with it, it became what it is now. Right? And it's watching experienced guys like yourself, Shannon, Skip, Matt and them, like just looking at what everyone's doing, finding out what you do, and then going out there and delivering, putting the product out there and see if the audience loves it or like it.
You brought up what it is now. What is it now in your estimation compared to what it was? How would you describe your podcast right now, today? It's live reality TV with sports. It's ex-athletes talking about the game live with a reality TV style. Mm-hmm. Right? So, now on some of our things we're doing, we're adding in that ISO cam, talking about the last segments and, you know what I mean? Because, to be honest, I try to figure out where everything's moving, right? I know, Netflix won that, streaming thing, right? So it's like, well, is that the next play? Getting a podcast live on there, our podcast would be cheaper than some of the shows they make, right? So if I throw in the reality TV vibe, let's see how that plays. Right, so I'm still trying to study to see how it plays and then see if that's something someone will want to see on a Netflix channel. With a podcast, however, particularly on YouTube or a Netflix or in the streaming stratosphere, it's no holds barred. You can get away with damn near anything. Yeah. Linear television, not so much. What if a linear television came your way? Is Gilbert Arenas and his crew capable of dialing it back for the purposes of linear television? Would you want to, or would you say, bump that? I don't want that. I don't want no part of that shit. I want to do what I want to do. I want to say what I want to say. I don't want to have to be concerned with FCC Airways. I just want to do my thing. What choice would Gilbert Arenas and his crew make under those conditions? With me personally, I will have to put that to a vote with everyone, because it is a team. Yep. Yeah, of course I can dap. I was a blogger for NBA.com, right? So when I do other people's podcasts, I know how to conduct myself. Right. But it's where everyone wants to go, together. As an individual, I would do linear anytime. And just like when I did The Jump,
right? My thing is, let me see all the words I can't say. Okay. I'm gonna do my research on what I can say, what I can't say, to still put my personality into it. Mm-hmm. Right? It's a lot more lenient than it was back in the day. So,
No doubt about it. And by the way, you will be doing linear in the very near future. I made a promise to you. I'm going to get you on First Take, and that's going to happen, bro.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm just trying to get through the damn Super Bowl. That's why I'm going to do with all this NFL stuff. I'm trying to get through the damn Super Bowl. Gilbert Arenas right here with Stephen A. on the Stephen A. Smith Show. So we look at Gil's Arena, and we see what you're doing. You're also with my man Shannon Sharp, Club Shay, a part of the Nightcap with him and Ocho Cinco, no doubt about that. Y'all doing great work with that as well. Congratulations to all three of y'all on that. How did that come about, and how do you love doing that, especially compared to Gil's Arena itself?
Yeah, so when Shannon hit me, this was probably at the end of the summer, maybe. Mm-hmm. And he brought up the idea of doing a show, which is Nightcap, and I thought when he first said it, because I've been trying to figure out how I can get NBA footage and break down plays, like the last 5 minutes, and break down why this team won, why this team lost. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, oh, we're doing the same thing. Our clash was we have different sponsors. So we were trying to figure out how is this going to work. So, football season started, and he has Ocho, and I'm sitting there laughing. But I'm thinking like, well, this is not what I thought it was. Right? This is just talking to sports actor. Oh, hell yeah, I can do this. So from there, it was just trying to figure out the logistics parts about, our actual sponsors. So basically what we decided to do was I'll come on as a guest, right? You guys keep the same channel. I'll come on you guys' channel. This is you guys' channel. I'll come on. Can you just simulcast with Gil's Arena channel? So on Wednesdays, both channels go live.
Wow.
So he did that for me. So, I don't take a fee or nothing, and I'm just coming on as a guest for him.
Got you. Gilbert Arenas, let's get into you in this regard, because you being in this platform, your voice growing more and more significantly with each passing day, with each podcast. Again, major props to you for pulling that off. No one would have suspected that you would have been able to pull this off. You've had your issues, which you've talked about yourself in your career. Obviously, get suspended in the 2009-2010 season over the handgun stuff and all of that. Mm-hmm. Nobody would have thought about that. But when I thought about it, I said, you know something? I'm quite sure there's a lot he wanted to say back then. I'm quite sure there's a lot he wanted to say over the years. I'm quite sure he wanted to say it in a way that wasn't fit for FCC airwaves. So guess what? This kind of helps him. This kind of touches on the kind of stuff that Gilbert Arenas wants to do and wants to basically create in terms of a platform and an opportunity for other players, former players and beyond, to be able to do. Am I right in surmising that that's what you were thinking when all of this jump started for you?
Yeah, actually it was an accident at first. I was on Complex, I had the show on Complex.
Okay.
Out of Bounds. And then they didn't have a budget for everyone. And then the producer said, let's do podcasting. And I was like, what's podcast? What is podcasting? And then he broke down the idea, and I was like, yeah, I'm not a radio guy, right? I like my face. And he said, oh no, we can just call it, he said, we can call it.
CNN heard, yep.
He was like, we can call it video podcasting, right? This is 2018. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. So, I did a couple episodes, and I was like, I don't like the way that went. And he was like, nah, and put it out anyway. And he said, the audience don't know what you didn't say. They only know what you said. So do not, and he said, this is what I had to work with. Do not edit while you're trying to say stuff. Just say it. We can edit after. Don't try to pre-edit what you're going to say. So, that was the first year. And then, I remember I had Kevin Durant on. He went to Golden State.
Yep.
And this is Kevin Durant, right? This from, DC, know him, so he pulled up. And he was nervous. He was nervous, right? He's, doing this because it was the Draymond Green, why he left. It was that time.
Got it.
Right? The cussing and all that. And I right there understood exactly what athletes go through. It brought me back to, I understand what you're feeling. And then I just kept it on the narrow, didn't worry about it. And once he realized I wasn't going down that, he opened up, started talking about everything, right? And then that's the same thing with Lou Williams. And I realized when
Lemon Pepper Lou. Remember,
he
everybody think, let me tell you something right now, just as an aside to interrupt you for a second. Everybody want to get on Lou Williams for that. Let me confess right here on my own damn show. He wasn't lying about them lemon pepper wings at Magic City. I've tasted them before. Damn it, I went to Magic City once upon a time in my life. Okay, damn it, he was telling the truth about those lemon pepper wings. But go ahead, Gilbert Arenas. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that. But go ahead.
You remember when Lou Will came on and he was talking about, how he was underpaid and never was asked to be a sixth man. They just gave him the job. And then he talked about the Toronto. This is when Kawhi Leonard was a free agent. Right. And he said the reasons why players don't like Toronto. It's cold. They don't have no family, this and that and that. And then that blew up because everyone thought and put in the mind that Kawhi wasn't going to go back. Right. So, and then from there, like sometimes I had, I mentioned to you that I had T.O. on, and then T.O. did his thing, and I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna, and I edited it all out. And I'm pretty sure that if he watched the episode, he probably was like, man, why'd you edit out this part? I was looking out for your best interest, right? If that was me on that side and it went out and then it went south, I was like, damn, why y'all didn't just erase it? So, it was a chance to really protect the athlete.
Yep.
Protect the athlete. And then it became therapy.
Therapy in what way? Why was it therapeutic?
Ex-athletes' biggest issues is 2 times a day, 11 to 1 practice.
Right.
That 5 to 9, right? Getting ready for the game and then game, right? Our brains is wired to be active. We need to put this energy somewhere because that's when our energy levels went up. Right. So when you're retired and those 2 times come up, you're depressed because you have nothing to do with, you've never figured out, right? 10, 20 years, right? Those 2 times were so important to you being busy. Now you have nothing to fill it. So if you look at my time, right? If you look at the time of my show, 11:30 to 1, practice time. Yeah. Right. So now we get to come on there and get out that aggression that we have. And then as soon as the show is over, like, okay, lunch and nap. So it gets us in the routine that everyone struggles with when they're done.
Do you believe that's why so many athletes, current and former, are getting into podcasting, getting into the media, because it keeps them connected to a world they officially departed from, and that is what they need to survive? Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Mentally, when our careers is over, that part of us dies. And no one has taught us how to die and still be alive. Right? No matter how much money we have, it is meaningless to us if we don't have no purpose. So now, I get to come and talk and, we get to go back and forth with, takes and sport. It's like a locker room again for us.
Right.
Right. And that,
I laugh about this part because when Draymond Green comes out, he says, we the new media, right? I laugh about that because I'm like, oh, you're going to find out. Welcome to my world. I ain't worried about it. This is what I do. This is what I've been doing. Y'all about to find out. You utter the wrong syllable. You utter the right syllable. You tell the truth. You ain't lying. You don't, it ain't no private shit you throwing out there. It's stuff that was done on a public platform with thousands, if not millions of people who watched and saw. And you make a comment that a gazillion other people made. But you ain't shit.
Yeah.
You're lying. You a sellout. You all of this stuff. I said, wait until that comes your way. And you're going to find out what being a part of the media is truly, truly all about. Have you encountered that problem?
See, you know, because I started with NBA.com and I was there for 2 years, won some awards, I understood media then, right? I understood how to deal with the media in the locker room, right? Instead of giving the generic, both teams play hard, you know, you say that shit when you played bad, but the team won, you know, both teams play hard. Then when you had a great game, but you lost, you try to figure out how to keep your smile down because you did well and keep it about the team. Like, we know how to be generic, right? You know, and then when we do say something that's really to our heart, we spazzed, right? Podcasting while playing, the idea is we get to correct, we call it laziness of a reporter, right? But it is more dangerous territory if you do not have the tough skin. And for NBA players, we do not have tough skin. Here's why.
I was getting ready to ask you why.
We've never been talked bad about until we get to the pros. That is the first. When you say something, TNT, ESPN, Sports Center, when you say something negative about me, I don't care if it's all right. That's the first time someone did it, and you did it in front of the world. See, middle school, if you're the best player, you're doing anything to get me on your team. High school, same thing. College, there's no real negativity in college. So when you get to the NBA and you get that oh, you know, he's selfish, you don't pass the ball, this and that. I know I don't. I know I haven't. I didn't want you to point that out. So we get in our feelings about what you're saying because to us, you don't know the whole story. You don't know why I'm not passing the ball. You think I just woke up and don't want to pass. I work out with these dudes every goddamn day. Right. They're lazy. He went to the club. He don't care about basketball. He's disgruntled. And then we in real time trying to win a game and I'm supposed to pass him the ball and then get called out for the media not passing the ball. And I can't say, yeah. So we get a little sensitive, and then we'll talk around it and blame the person who's coming at us when in reality you're telling the truth, but we can't defend ourselves because we can't out the problems.
But here's the deal. That's an argument that religiously is made against the media. But now they'll make it against Gilbert. They'll make it against Kenyon. They'll make it against Kenyon was in 2 finals, man. Kenyon was in Western Conference Finals in Denver. Gilbert Arenas was averaging 25 or 28. I mean, come on now. You dropped 60 on Kobe and the Lakers for crying out loud. And they will treat you like you the media if you're telling the truth as well. Now, what's the excuse for that? I can understand them looking at somebody like my scrub ass and saying, you ain't playing on our level, what the hell you know? All right, even though I've been reporting on the damn league for 30 years. But they'll use the same argument against you. How can they do that?
It's because we supposed to know the ins and outs, right? So when we just use a blanket slate, like, oh, he ain't ready to play or he ain't, right? Like what I do with Van or what I did with when I do with Darvin Ham, right?
Okay.
Right? You know, you're benching this player and this player. Like, I know that's not what you're doing. I know, like, you know, you might be getting ready to trade somebody, so you don't want them to get hurt. And, like, I get but because I'm not defending all of it, that's what gets them mad. But just like I will tell them, I'm going to always be fair. If you're doing bad today, I will say it. If you're doing good tomorrow, I would cheer it. So, Anthony Davis, your Bambi legs last year. This year, you got RoboCop legs. Good job, right? So I try to play as close to the middle as possible. And that's why I don't really get the backlash as much from the players because, I might have killed you there, but I'm going to give you your credit when your credit is due. Like, my favorite two players is James Harden and Russell Westbrook, right?
Okay.
Those are my two favorite players, but I hate the Clippers.
Right.
Right? So
even with James Harden and what he's done in the playoffs in terms of people accusing him of quitting on a couple of occasions?
Yeah, I don't like the Clippers. Love Harden. Right? So Harden can't do no wrong, but I'm going to be the first one to talk trash about him. Right? While wearing the Harden shirt and wearing the Harden shoes. Right? I'm going to, like I was just saying, hey, he don't belong on the USA team. Right? I take Tyrese over him with the rest of this lineup. But that's my favorite guy. Right? I'm just being fair. And I think that's the reason that I still get a pass and leeway because I'm still fair to the game and to the players. Like, this is my favorite player, but you on some bull right now.
Right. Welcome back to Stephen A. Smith Show right here over the digital airwaves of YouTube. Coming at you at the very least 3 days a week right here on the Stephen A. Smith Show. Subscriber base has eclipsed right now over 520,000. Clearly will be at about 521,000 at the very least by the time most of you get to watch this podcast in the next hour or so. Thank you so much for the love. Keep it coming. I'm going to keep on coming as promised. I want to move on and touch on some things before I get on out of here by taking your tweets and answering some of your questions. I want to give love to businesswoman and philanthropist Rhonda Stryker and her husband, William Johnston, who happens to be the chairman of Greenleaf Trust. Stryker has been a Spelman College trustee since 1997. She's worked for decades to empower women through higher education and advanced opportunities for additional marginalized groups. And just recently, history was made because I believe it was yesterday, she made a $100 million donation, a gift to the school, the largest single donation ever given to an HBCU. The $100 million comes as Spelman College marks 100 years since its official naming in 1924, by the way. The gift is an important first step on Spelman's path to become need blind, helping to attract the best and brightest students. Just so y'all know, $75 million of the $100 million will go to endowed scholarships for future students. The remaining $25 million will be used to develop an academic focus on public policy and democracy, improve student housing, and provide flexible funding to meet critical strategic needs. What can you say? This is Spelman College. Founded in 1881, it's a leading liberal arts college widely recognized as a global leader in the education of women of African descent. The college is home to 2,300 students. It is also the leading producer of black women who complete PhDs in STEM education. That would be science, technology, engineering, and math. Philanthropist Rhonda Stryker and her husband, William Johnston, chairman of Greenleaf Trust, appreciate that donation. Very, very thoughtful, very humbling. All of us should be very, very grateful. Any of us associated with HBCUs, which I obviously am as a graduate of Winston-Salem State University. I thank you so much for such an unbelievably generous contribution. You certainly didn't have to do that, but you did. And your heart's in the right place. And I'm sure all the folks at Spelman and throughout HBCUs are incredibly grateful to you for your generosity and philanthropy. So thank you. Let me move on to a different subject because there's a couple of things that I wanted to touch on. Matt Gaetz, representative out of Florida, recently made news because on Monday night following Trump's blowout at the Iowa caucuses, Gaetz had this to say about the future of the Republican Party. Please put this up on the full screen. He said, quote, Donald Trump doesn't need women voters because, quote, there's a Julio and a Jamal ready. This is the blue collar realignment of the Republican Party. Gaetz has argued that the demographic changes between the parties will help former President Donald Trump get back to the White House. Remember, this is the same representative who incited the ouster of former GOP House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. And he said this while appearing on Newsmax, if I remember correctly, on Wednesday, and said that as white women leave the Republican Party under the leadership of Donald Trump, they will be replaced by Latino and black men moving towards the GOP. Gaetz added, there is a relentlessness and a persistence in the Trump campaign that I think really emerges out of the candidate himself. I want to say that when I use the word idiot, I'm not talking about Matt Gaetz, the person. I'm talking about Matt Gaetz' comments. Here's why it's stupid. Have we not all figured out that when stuff happens, it's usually women who are moving the needle? Have we not figured that out? Women are more conscientious. They're more active. They're more in tune and emotionally invested in a lot of the things that go on in our nation. So even if you feel that way, it's nothing short of idiocy to utter it. Because what you essentially said as a representative of the GOP is, ladies, we don't need you. We got black men that's going to vote for us. We got Latinos who are men who are going to vote for us. And they're saying it as if it outnumbers women. Now, last time I checked, when we take into account the American population combined with the incarcerated rate, I do believe there's more women than men. I certainly suspect that more women are eligible to vote than dudes, men. So him saying something like this, I'm not saying by any stretch, I want to be very, very careful because I got to be responsible here. I'm in no way implying that he meant for it to come across this way. But I'm going to tell you how at least some, as in millions of women, will potentially interpret this. Oh, you're trying to take us back to the times before we were given the right to vote. Oh, you don't think our vote counts. Oh, you don't think we're going to show up to the polls. Oh, you think that you can just summarily dismiss us. We could be some Stepford wife or something. That's how it's going to be interpreted by some. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. But I just think that it was a very idiotic thing for Matt Gaetz to utter out of his mouth. And it wouldn't surprise me at all in a general election if this ended up costing the GOP votes. I mean, you done got your ass whipped in the midterms. You lost the White House. It wasn't that red wave that we all surmised was going to come down the pike last November. You would think this man had learned his lesson, knowing that sometimes the most profound language you could use is silence, as in shutting the hell up. Just dumb. Not to mention the fact that you come from a state, which is Florida, where you got a governor that's already blown his opportunity to win the GOP nomination, basically holding on for dear life, praying that Donald Trump gets convicted for felonies so you can move him out of the way, even though a felon can run for the White House according to our Constitution. And you're hoping against hope that that will happen because of all the nonsense DeSantis got himself involved with. Don't say gay bills, suing everybody, putting aside 16 to 17 million in the Florida budget just for lawsuits because of all the fights you find yourself in. These are the kind of things you would think Gaetz, who is a representative in Florida, would have been less than tone deaf towards and would not have uttered those words out of his mouth. But because he has, it is what it is. Good luck with that. I think that will come back to haunt them. And if that doesn't do it, let me get into Nikki Haley real quick. Presidential candidate for the GOP, came in third to DeSantis, who eclipsed her, bullied his way to 20% of the vote because he was really protesting the fact that she was considered in second place, not him. And obviously, Donald Trump beat them all by at least 30 points in the Iowa caucuses. He's expected to do the same in New Hampshire. And Nikki Haley, the former governor of South Carolina, who was of South Asian descent and the daughter of immigrants from India, by the way. I'll tell you why I'm bringing that up in a second. She is the former governor of South Carolina, who, by the way, is expected to lose there handily as well. Because it was bad enough that Donald Trump has been stomping the whole GOP field. But on top of it all, former Republican presidential candidate who bowed out of the race, Senator Tim Scott, a black man and a senator from South Carolina, is said to be throwing his support behind Donald Trump, which is going to solidify and secure the state of South Carolina. I heard conservative pundits saying earlier today, Nikki Haley is done. They're trying to act like that's the reason. Let me give you another. This lady, intelligent, accomplished, certainly not beyond her prime. This lady, former ambassador to the UN for the United States under the Trump administration, was recently being interviewed, and she claimed that the U.S. has never been a racist country. This is what she said on Fox News. She says, quote, "We are not a racist country, Brian." She was speaking because Brian Kilmeade of Fox News asked her, is the GOP a racist party? And her response was, "We are not a racist country, Brian. We've never been a racist country. Our goal is to make sure that today is better than yesterday. Are we perfect? No. But our goal is to always make sure we try and be more perfect every day than we can." That's what she said. Haley's remarks were in response to MSNBC host Joy Reid's comments on whether Haley could win the GOP nomination as a woman of color. Again, because of South Asian heritage, and she's the daughter of immigrants from India. And Haley suggested Reid, this is what she suggested about Reid. She lives in a different America than I do, pointing to her own rise from the daughter of immigrants to the governor of South Carolina. Haley continues, "I mean, yes, I'm a brown girl that grew up in a small rural town of South Carolina who became the first female minority governor in history, who became a UN ambassador and who is now running for president. If that's not the American dream, I don't know what is. You can sit there and give me all the reasons why you think I can't do this. I will continue to defy everybody on why we can do this, and we will get it done." We know she's lying about that because they ain't going to get it done. But later that day, here's what her campaign affirmed about Haley's previous statements, just to make sure we're fair on this show. Quote, full screen right there. "America has always had racism, but America has never been a racist country," a campaign spokesman said. "The liberal media always fails to get that distinction. It can throw a fit, but that doesn't change Nikki's belief that America is special because its people are always striving to do better and live up to our founding ideals of freedom and equality." Then on Thursday at a CNN town hall moderated by anchor Jake Tapper, Tapper asked Haley if she stood by the remarks she made during the interview on Fox and Friends. She commented by saying she believes the country's, quote, intent was to do the right thing. I have to confess to Nikki Haley, I didn't know you could dance like that. I haven't been paying enough attention. I don't know whether Beyonce, Taylor Swift, or Janet Jackson or somebody, but clearly you could give lessons to them. You dance better than they do. You all over the damn place. You say one thing to an audience full of constituencies one day, constituents one day, another day you say something different. You dance around it. You don't direct it head on. Perfect example. Intent. Believe the country's intent was to do the right thing. What's the right thing? That's very vague. The right thing to them was clearly Reconstruction. It was clearly a civil war. It was clearly Jim Crow laws. Where do I go? Was it the right thing? Was that good and intentional when women weren't allowed to vote? Until 1920? Was that the right thing? When blacks were denied that opportunity until 1964, was that the right thing? When Jim Crow laws prohibited so many different things? You ever try going to a loan, to the bank for a loan? For a home? And how things are stipulated for you and it's different for somebody white? How about being a small business owner, an entrepreneur, aspiring to do that? You ever see the discrepancies, the difference? I know what I'm talking about. I know people in government who've given me intel on the discrepancies that exist, how the rules are different for black people and brown people compared to white folks. Evidence is everywhere. Evidence is everywhere. And as a presidential candidate, you would utter that ridiculous nonsense? You have any idea how insulting that is to hear this from a presidential candidate? You want to deny that this, at least once upon a time, was a racist country? You can sit up there and talk about how the Abraham Lincolns of the world or Jeffersons of the world wanted to minimize, if not eradicate, slavery, yet they were slave owners. Do we need to go there? You want to go back to your Civil War comments? Why you never mentioned slavery when the whole premise of it was based on slavery? You want to get into details about how it wasn't as prevalent and as conspicuous up north compared to the South because they weren't profiting off of it and their economy wasn't depending on slave labor the way the South was. Want to go there? Want to go there? This is exactly why I got pissed off when Ron DeSantis had a board of educators trying to explain how there were some things that emanated in a good way from slavery. This is why a guy like Jesse Waters for Fox News, who I respect, and I genuinely like his show sometimes, and I was a guest on his show once or twice. I'm not here to castigate or excoriate him as a person. I don't know him. I think he's a damn good host. But the reason why I was ticked off when he came to Ron DeSantis' defense is the same reason I'm pissed off right now at Nikki Haley. Why? Why bring it up? What's the harm in simply saying that was a very bad thing and it was a very bad time in our nation's history and it is not something that we want to talk about because it is not our shining moment as white folks in America. We need to leave that subject alone. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Isn't there some things that you just leave alone? That you just let it go? When you consider the fact that rapes, assaults, imprisonment, maiming, disfiguring, murder resulted from slavery? When you know that, why debate it? Why bring it up as a subject to discuss and try to maneuver your way through that terrain to find something good? Why? That's the only thing I was upset about with Jesse Waters. Why? Why do that? That's all I'm saying. I'm not going to be like some of you and call him out his name and think he's this, or that. I'm saying why debate that at the time when Ron DeSantis brought that up. You, Nikki Haley, you running for the president of the United States. Why would you do that now? You know why you're doing it? Because you were speaking to an audience that you knew wanted to hear that. And if they wanted to hear that, what kind of audience is that? What kind of constituent is that? And if they're the kind of folks that would want to hear of such a thing, what does that make them? Because I know plenty of white folks that don't think like that. I know plenty of white folks who are willing to own up to the insidious iniquities that were exacted by this country and white America against minorities in this nation. And they openly admit it and don't debate it and don't fight it. And I respect that. So I ask you, why would you feel the need? Why would you feel the need to say these things? Because you think that's going to get you votes. And if you think that's going to get you votes, you have essentially indicted Republicans everywhere. That's what you did. Because you're implying that that's okay to say in front of those audiences, and they're good with it. And if they're good with it, and you're good with them being good with it, then how could you be trusted to be a leader of the free world and a commander-in-chief and the president to all of American citizens? I am certainly not calling Trump better than you. I am saying that your quotes are irresponsible, Nikki Haley. They're irresponsible. You try to wiggle your way around it any way you want to. They're irresponsible. I would never disrespect you, call you anything insulting, nothing like that. You are a presidential candidate in this country. You are a representative, you're a former governor, you're a former UN ambassador. Your reputation, your resume is impeccable. I'm not here for that. But as a black man in the United States of America, understanding our history, how dare you? How dare you say something like that? Message to the white men and women in America. When people talk about America's racist history, you're talking about history. And you're talking about a system that has implemented conditions which have negatively and systemically affected folks other than white folks in America. It doesn't mean we're talking about you, the individual. You know where you get yourself in trouble, white America? And by white America, I'm not talking all, I'm not talking most. I'm saying some of you who think the way that clearly some of you think. You know where you get yourself in trouble? When you personalize history as if it were you. If you sat back and said, that was then, this is now. That was them, this is me. That was those folks. Today's folks ain't like that. Who could argue with you? But because you're so apt to come to the defense of the indefensible, because you believe it stains you, it ultimately ends up doing exactly that. Because you attached yourself on a personal level to the iniquitous behaviors from an historical perspective and beyond of those who came before you that may very well have nothing to do with you. They don't think like you. They didn't act like you would act. They wouldn't behave like you behaved. Nothing to do with it. You didn't have to personalize it. But some of you have a tendency to do that. And all you do is expose your guilt. Before I get on out of here, let me read some of these tweets before I get on out of here. At Little Uzi Boop, B-O-O-P, writes, hey, Stephen A., my girlfriend broke up with me because she said, quote, I'm too hairy. Should I shave everything and beg her to take me back, or should I keep all my hair and try to find a woman who will accept me the way that I am? Bro, if your woman calls you too hairy and she's uncomfortable and she thinks it's nasty, don't you think she has a point? Now, if you don't want to shave your head, then you go and you get with somebody else who's going to do it. But here's the point. You got to be kind of nasty if the woman sat up there and said, I can't be with you because you're too damn hairy. It's got to be excessive. And I know this much. I wouldn't want to lay down with somebody I'm uncomfortable with. I mean, hygiene matters. With hair and too much hair, it's a lot of funk under that. A lot of funk. The smell just oozes. She got every right to want something better than that. And if you didn't care about that, then clearly you didn't care about her enough, so she needed to move on. I'm sorry, bro. I can't help you on that one, dog. I can't. At C_Riley, fire right, is eating cereal off limits after a certain age, or can I keep enjoying my life at 35? You can keep enjoying your life. I was eating cereal up into my 50s. But I will tell you, it elevated my fat level above 25%. It had me looking skinny fat, which is as nasty as it gets. It compromised my conditioning, which potentially could compromise other things if you ain't careful. Thank God that didn't happen to me. Cereal's nice, but I would tell you, every now and then, treat yourself to it. Nothing in excess. Nothing in excess. At OG Real Call writes, who is your biggest inspiration? It was my mama. God rest her soul. She passed away in 2017 when she was alive. Now it's my daughters. I'm a father. 2 beautiful girls. It's my responsibility to make sure they're taken care of. There is no greater inspiration that I have in this world than those 2. If they hungry, it's because I'm starving. I don't eat unless they eat. I ain't comfortable unless they're comfortable. I don't have a good time unless I assure that they're having a good time. They are my everything. That is my inspiration. Easy question. Last but not least, at NBA Muse ACC, how much do stats matter when debating players? It matters some. It matters a lot, but it's not the be-all, end-all. The eye test matters, what you see. Your knowledge of the game itself and what you're judging, because you're not just judging their stats, you're judging their roles, what they're asked to do, what they're capable of doing, what they're not capable of doing, how they're coached, how they're set up schematically to succeed, or how they're compromised because of schemes. All of those things come into play, but stats matter, I would say, on average at about 65%. Got to get on out of here. Today's show, that was part 1 of my interview with Gilbert Arenas. He had a lot of compelling things to say. He'll have even more compelling things to say come Monday when part 2 airs as well. So stick around and make sure you don't miss that. Until then, I'm signing off. I got to go do General Hospital. They've summoned Brick to Port Charles. Brick has been summoned to Port Charles, so I got to get on out of here. But I love y'all. Appreciate the love. Keep it coming. I'm going to keep on coming. Have a beautiful, wonderful weekend. God bless. Peace and love. Until next time, Stephen A. Smith, signing off.